Welcome to the Chico DeManuel Show. It's been a while. It's been like fucking 3 weeks since I made an episode. Got a lot going on. Between my personal life, work life, and podcast life, it's been really difficult to, stay on top of this like I'd like. But, and I'll fill you in briefly on what's been going on with me. So, maybe with just a week ago, I was in this program. This long story short, I'm summarizing this. Basically subsidizing my housing. I was living in a hotel, and I started working a new job, and I work nights at this new job. I work all night long. And the commute was 2.5 hours there, 3 hours back. Half my work shift could be spent commuting. And, I also got arrested. Without going into too much detail about that, somebody assaulted me with a chair, tried to stab me with a box cutter. And when the police arrived, I had warrants. So I was arrested. Now, in hindsight, that's a good thing because I get to get that shit taken care of. I was going to get it taken care of. It just, fuck. There's only 24 hours in a day, and I'm busy for like 26 of them. So there's that. And I really want to modify the format of the show. Like, my articles are starting to get lame. Like, the process was starting to get unenjoyable to me. Like, it was just the same talking points. Like, trans people in sports and fucking all that kind of shit. And quite frankly, those are problems. But I'm concerned. I'm concerned with more problems than the trans idiocy and all that shit's going on. And when people ask me about, my podcast, they say, what it's about. I'm like, oh, it's just current events, blah, 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 blah. Like, no. After listening to 81, 82 episodes of my shit, I've come to realize that something needs to change. So I'm going to be changing the format of the podcast. Where did I put my weed? I'm going to be changing the format. So instead of the opening segment and 3 segments, we're going to narrow this show down to 3 consistent topics that we talk about in every episode. And that's going to be relationships and dating, culture, and philosophy. No, seriously, where the fuck is my bag at? I put it in here, yeah. So yeah, relationships, dating, culture, and philosophy. And I think it'll just flow better. Those are the 3 topics I would say I'm the most passionate about. That I could offer more insightful and somewhat original content when I'm talking about it. So it just seems like a good move to go. So like the first segment will just be like 15, 20 minutes a piece. We're going to shorten it a little bit. No need to really run like an hour and 20 minutes or an hour, just about an hour, somewhere in that neighborhood. And we'll see how it goes. But I felt like things needed some changes, and I want to keep this fresh. I want this to turn into something, and there's that. So there's my little tidbit that I'm going to share with you guys. So with all that being said, let's go into relationships and dating. So something I was looking at, I was watching mediocre tutorials and reviews, and this is the first time I heard about it. Apparently it's a thing that's been going on for some time, and it's called Drizzle. And to my understanding, I'm not fucking 100% on it. Matter of fact, let me just look it up in my phone right here real quick, since I'm not doing a video episode. Okay, so yeah, this drizzle thing, like I'm gonna read the definition, but I'm gonna summarize it first. So to my understanding, drizzle is like a woman's way of, like, basically saying a man should splurge, make it rain on her. Drizzle, like, a drizzle is a light rain. So yeah, niggas is supposed to make it drizzle on these women, and like basically up front, before I know whether you like you, before I know whether your coochie stank or not, like, I'm just supposed to cash out on you. First date we eating Kobe beef. Second date we got a weekend trip to the fucking moon. All that kind of shit. So it's basically this movement where it's like, another movement is basically saying men should cash out on these good for nothing bitches. So I just Googled it, and I Googled what is drizzle. Okay, so my understanding was drizzle is the counter movement. The original movement was sprinkle. So sprinkle is like what, I said drizzle was. Drizzle is the response. But it says sprinkle is a phrase that means bless your heart or right back at you. YouTuber Letitia Padua is credited with starting the phrase, which gained popularity among TikTokers, especially women. Drizzle is often used by creators of the soft guy era video without any context. Okay, so let's change that since I typed in the wrong phrase. Let's see, what is sprinkle? Yep, what is sprinkle? There we go. Okay. So sprinkle is a catchphrase used by TikTok star Shira7 that has multiple meanings depending on the context. It can mean blessings or bless your heart, or it can be used in the LGBTQ and drag community to describe an impressive performance. And okay. I don't know about that. It's okay, so maybe my understanding on it is wrong. Nevertheless, when you talk about bless your heart or whatever, I believe the context they was using it in, which created the drizzle counter in the soft guy era, was all that. Was like, women having these ridiculously high standards with nothing to justify such high standards besides arbitrary emotions, and nothing to offer in return for it besides, like, them, whatever they are. If you value what, they as a very general whole is. So, like, let me scroll through this and see if I can get, okay, what does it mean when a guy says he's not ready for a relationship? Her response was, that mean he don't want you. Sprinkle. Yeah, because God forbid a man be uncertain about something. A man not be sure whether he wants to date you, especially with the way these women nowadays act. Like, don't, how dare you be hesitant and unsure if you want to enter into some potentially damaging bullshit with a potentially phony person. God forbid. But she also had views on what a woman could bring to the table in a relationship, and we all know about this table shit, and she said, I'm not bringing nothing to the table. Sprinkle. If you want a woman to bring something to the table, go to IHOP. Woo, rather bold statement. Okay. She revealed, if y'all don't know what sprinkle means, it means like blessings or bless your heart. So when I hear bless your heart, it's usually something when you say something, like my grandma used to say that to me. She's like, so what you doing? I'm just going to like smoke weed and play video games all day. Oh, child, bless your heart. Like, it's a patronizing ass, condescending, like, oh, well, I wish the best for you because you're fucked up. Any more of this? Yeah. It's just something she made up a long time ago on the channel. Just like saying, okay, bless your heart, back at you, whatever y'all need it to mean. Now, see, the first problem with that is, like, whatever I need it to mean, like, I don't need it to mean anything. It doesn't have to mean anything to me, you know? And it's a problem of entitlement that's just becoming far too prevalent amongst women. Like, it's one thing if you're entitled and you fucking did something, like, you put in some work, you did something, like, revolutionary, extraordinary, and now you want to demand, like, you know, sprinkle would be like your first year in the NBA, no ring, no awards, no nothing, and you want to make $500 million a year. You want a $500 million contract. And if the NBA says no, or whatever team you want to say, oh, sprinkle, bless your heart. Like, what? Hold up. Not how this works. Not how this works at all. The phrase means whatever you want it to mean. Now, that article was courtesy of Metro, but yeah, I got a lot of problem with this. For one, it's just like this whole bring to the table shit. You only got to watch one episode of Kevin Samuels to know that, like, these women will say this shit, but if you press onward, like, if you interrogate and, like, request some details, you ask her to elaborate, all this shit boils down to is a bunch of nothing. Like, what do you have to offer a man? What do you have to offer a man? Oh, well, I'm fierce and I'm kind and I'm loving, blah, blah, blah. All this shit, which may be true. May be true, may not be true. I don't know these bitches. I don't care. The issue is you don't consider if that's what a man wants. Like, you say that like a man should want it. You know? Like, oh, since this is what you have to offer, I should want it. But if this is what I have to offer, like 40, 50K a year, got my own place, my own car and all this shit, that's not good enough. You know? What women want in a man is always justified. And it's usually the one thing that women want pretty consistently across the board is more. More. They want more. Whatever the fuck they have now it's cool for now, as long as the future, you know, shows that I'm going to get something for waiting. Like, you're owed something because I'm not a millionaire now. So if I get you as not a millionaire, I get you on the pretense that I'm going to be balling later. Sprinkle. Just fucking stupid. And this entitlement amongst women, like, women, they don't feel any kind of way for, like, wanting what they want. Even if it's unreasonable, even if they're dead wrong, they don't give a damn. They feel completely and totally justified in what they want and what they feel they deserve. So who gets to decide that? Who gets to decide, like, how valuable you are and what you deserve? I often get this argument when people talk about karma. Like, I understand the idea of karma, but there's no such thing as an actual force called karma. Like, karma is not some spirit just floating around the surface of the earth looking for people being wronged and keep, like, who first of all, good and bad are subjective. Who determines what's good? Who determines what's bad? And then once we've determined who determines what's good and what's bad, who's going to keep track of everybody, everywhere, in every act they commit, and make sure it all evens out over the long run? Like, who's going to make sure everybody's getting their positive and negative EV for everything they've done? The fuck? And in the context people bring up karma is usually when an experience they perceive as undesirable, negative, happens to them. And now they're just like, oh, well, karma gonna get you. Woo, woo, woo. It's like, hey, hold on. Do you speak for karma? You don't know what karma got going on. Maybe karma's got a full schedule today and can't handle this little petty shit that you trying to pass off. It's like you really being wrong. There's some shit really happening to you. What the fuck? Nothing happening to you. Your ass is a drama queen. You know? So it's just kind of like that. Who's going to determine what's good and what's bad and all that? Shit's dumb. And as a man, whether you a high value man, whether you a medium value man, low value man, it's just off-putting to feel like you already know you got to go above and beyond as a man. You already know, like, just being a okay man ain't good enough. But it's like, you know, it's like if you had to run a marathon, you got to run a 100-mile marathon, you got 24 hours to train for it. It's like it's not that I couldn't run 100 miles, but in 24 hours, I'm basically doomed to fail. You know? And this sprinkle shit is another indication of how double standards are with women. Women want the double standards that benefit them, but not the ones they don't. And then as far as the whole soft guy era thing, like, I get the point. Like, I get it. Like, to hear a bunch of dudes talking about how a woman's got to be, like, basically fucking before they meet, you know, she got to cook my food. What you mean I got to pay for dinner? Why don't you already have the reservation and dinner paid for? You should already know what I want to eat, already have it ordered before I get to the restaurant. And goddamn it, it should be digested and ready to shit before we leave. You know? And when guys say that, it's real easy to pin that off as ridiculous. Like, what the fuck's this guy talking about? Like, how you gonna ask that of a woman? And with most things involving women, when you use their logic against them, it doesn't make sense. Because it was never logical. But women try to find this way where they can, like, manipulate language and somehow, like, fuse their emotions into what they think is logic. Like, it sounds logical to them because it feels right. But men are the exact opposite. Like, what feels right to us isn't always logical. And that's why a movement like sprinkle could even exist. It's also an extrapolation of, and I'm firing up right now, you should too. Just drank a Modelo, I feel good. There's also an extrapolation of how, what was I going to say? It's an extrapolation of like how I was saying the double standard, women get what they want, blah, 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 all this and that. It's an extrapolation of how, okay, so I guess what I'm trying to get at here is like, as far as the double standard, when men say that shit, they sound ridiculous. And when women fuse their logic, fuse emotion into their logic. And they create this language where it's like they absolve themselves of any responsibility. That's why sprinkle could even happen. Like, when you're not responsible for anything, then you can behave recklessly. Like, women say, oh, I just haven't met the right guy. Or I just, like, it's always something that's not you. You don't hear any women saying, like, yeah, I was being a little too reckless. I was going out too much and he didn't really like that. Or, you know, like, I was behaving in a way that made him feel insecure. And then when he became insecure, I shamed him for it. You know? At least if a woman could admit that shit, at least we're getting off to a start. But no, sprinkle. And it's like, I'm not crying about like equality. I know there's not equality, but it's like, women want to be men so bad, but it's like when they're actually men, they hate it. Like these masculine women with all these masculine ass energies, like when you don't get to use the excuses that men get to use, that men don't get to use, like you want to be men. And men don't get to use these excuses. So when you become men and you don't get to use these excuses, you feel some type of way. You feel like this ain't fair, or why can't I have both, or blah, 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 blah. It's like you're consumptive. The grass is always greener on the other side. At the expense of men. And it's like, I don't even think men like mind. Like, men don't mind being providers. Men don't mind splurging out, seeing they want. Like, men want this. But the unspoken demand is men also want to feel appreciated for this shit. You don't want to be going out your way, going out into the world and doing whatever you have to do to make the kind of lifestyle that you never become accustomed to possible. You don't want to do all that shit and feel unappreciated. You don't want her to feel like it's an expectation, like, oh, this nigga better go out there and provide for me. Who the fuck wants to feel like that? If men felt like, yeah, she better have my kids and cook and clean and suck my dick on demand, y'all feel some type of way. And while the equality amongst men ain't there, the logic remains the same. The thing about logic is it's grounded. Emotions change depending on the day, the time, location, all that shit. Logic is grounded. And it's why being petty is important. Like, if it makes you feel some type of way when you're on the receiving end of it, at the very minimum, imagine how someone else on the receiving end of it is going to feel. If you found a thread in it that's not likable, or you feel like it's unjust or unfair, why wouldn't somebody else? Why wouldn't somebody else? You know? But there's really no purpose in arguing logic with women because their emotions rule. Their emotions take charge, like not what should be. Like these women you can back them into a corner and like basically leave no room out for a logical explanation into why they make the decisions that they make. And they'll just it's cyclical. It'll never stop. Like, yeah, but what if, I don't believe and blah, blah, blah. But I feel like the next time you like listen to some women talk about something that they're like serious topics, passionate about, listen for how often they say, well, because I just feel like, well, because I feel, but see what I feel is just like, it's not based in reality. It's not based in reality at all. It's completely based on how you feel about whatever it is. That's why sprinkle, sprinkle is a bad movement. Drizzle, drizzle is a bad movement because, it's a counter movement to a bad movement. So how can it be good? And it's like, I almost feel like as a man, if you respond like this, like I get the sarcasm and satire and shit, but it's like, just ignore these women. Like now you feed into it. Now they get to draft this narrative where it's like, oh, you just a bitter ass man. It's like, nobody's bitter. Like, you realize how many billions of women there are out there? Like, no one's bitter over you. Maybe temporarily. Everybody's bitter for a period of time. You get fired from a job you hate. You might be glad you're gone, but who likes getting fired? Like, wouldn't you rather have left? Who wants to be told to get the fuck out? So it's like, it's not... I just don't see how any of this is supposed to be helpful. The drizzle shit just further, it propagates the feudery of it. Like, it's just more back and forth. It's like, well, men don't do this. Well, women don't do that. And it's just like, where does that get us? We can sit here and have all the round tables in the world with all these men and all these women, I don't think the issue is like men being providers or women being nurturers. It's the appreciation factor. Like, nothing is valued anymore. Like, it's not like I can't finance your whole life and take care of you and be loved for it. Like, I don't get the value associated with that. I just become a utility. Like, if I make sure you get your nails done, your hair done, you got a house to live in, food, you drive a nice car, you don't have to work, you do all that shit. And it's like, it's not seen as like a luxury. It's seen as a requisite. And when men just look at women like, why you ain't cooking? Why you not cleaning? Why you not having more of my babies or whatever? Now it seems like a requisite. And as a feature of that requisite, you lose your individuality somewhere in that mix. And it's not cool for men or women. And I understand this debate will go on. Like, this debate has been going on and will continue to go on. There's always going to be bitter ass misandrists and toxic ass misogynists out there. But when you look at the grand scheme, the only way we've gotten to where we are as a society is almost solely based on the cooperation of men and women. Without reproduction, we wouldn't be here. Without gender roles, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't do all of this. None of this would exist. You wouldn't have a platform to complain on or an audience to give a fuck. You wouldn't. So I think, as far as all these discussions, the sprinkle, drizzle, drizzle, shit like the Whatever podcast, which can be pretty insightful at sometimes, but at the end of the day, we know dumbass bimbos exist. And it has to be a decision that the person wants to make. The man has to decide to want to be better. The woman has to decide to want to be better. Exposing this shit is mundane at this point. We know. If somebody chooses to ignore the warning signs, that's on them. But the data is out there. Don't nobody need to be sprinkling, or drizzling. Motherfuckers just need to hold themselves accountable, man. Like, there's no loyalty no more. There's none of the things that are facets and tenets of a healthy relationship. Those qualities aren't in the people no more. The culture's degraded this shit. And now when you try to date somebody, it's totally superficial because it's not about building a bond. It's about continuity of a lifestyle you may or may not even live. Or trying to achieve a greater lifestyle and not actually building a relationship and bonding and all that. And it's poisonous. It's detrimental. So all these movements, if you're getting anything off of TikTok, that should tell you right there. If you found your information for living your life off TikTok, you're fucked. You are fucked, my friend. So, to wrap this up, I would like to create more content that show women and men being cooperative, the communication being open, and the ability to agree to disagree, and lose all of this entitlement, all of this feuding. Like, where's the positive benefit of this, and how do we bring it about in a reasonable and healthy and sustainable pace? And when are we gonna value partnership again? When are we gonna make these toxic ass men and women suffer for their shallow and trivial fucking lifestyles? Until you have a legion of unhappy, lonely women out there who wanted to do this and wanted to do that instead of valuing and respecting men, the men who built the goddamn world you live in, until they're punished and occupy a demographic of society that's tantamount to just misery, we'll keep having these conversations. Man, I've been just kind of thinking lately, like, why is everything so sexual? Like, it don't on the surface appear to me that like sex is all that big a deal, but at least not as far as one's lifestyle is concerned. But I swear, it's just like, it seems like it's a real primal, juvenile motivation, but it's very powerful. Like, I saw a clip. I don't know if this was real. I don't know where this was from, but you know how when you visit people in prison, there's that thick ass glass with the little disc with the holes in it that you can talk through, or a little microphone and shit. And it was like fucking packed. Like, one side was full of women and the other side was full of inmates. Man. And these women was hopping up on the goddamn desk and like twerking and like stripping and shit through the glass. And niggas was on the other side of the glass like humping glass. And it's like, I get it. If you're in prison around a bunch of niggas and you see some shit like that, you gonna go nuts. But it's like, ain't it something else that you would want other than that? Like, you can't even touch the hoes. Like, I don't want to look at no bitch through no glass in prison. like, come on. Like, these women walking around with these big, dumb, unproportional, retarded-looking asses, walking around body the shape of a 140-pound woman, but got the ass of a hippo. Like, who told you that looked good? And what's your plan for that? Like, you ain't just doing that shit for vanity, because you look stupid. That cannot be... What sane, reasonable human being does that to their ass to make it look better? You think that looks better? When it literally looked like you just put a air hole, like you just went to the gas station, paid $1.25, stuck the air holes up your ass, and inflated your booty cheeks. Like, how do you even find clothes? Like, what kind of clothes is made to fit? Like, you got two body types in one person. Like, you know how some people either be fat, some people be skinny, some people be lean, some people be heavy set. Your ass skinny and fat. And that's those two things, but they won. You skinny fat. They don't make clothes for people like that because they don't make people like that. Walking around all this fucking Botox in your lips, or you going out on a date and you wearing a dress that's just, that bitch don't even cover like the under booty, like where your thigh turn from leg to ass. You got your ass out, titties out, and they be like, "Oh, don't look at me." Like, are you for real? Are you for real? Like, look at these motherfucking climate protesters who sit in the middle of highways and shit to stop, or all these war protesters. Like, they're dressed, but it's like, you think they doing that and be like, "Whoa, just drive around me. I'm just having a seat. Don't pay any attention to me. There's plenty of road. You can drive around me." Like, nigga, you want attention. They're trying to raise awareness to something. That's why they do something that you cannot really ignore. Now, I'm sure it's possible you can ignore, you can lock yourself in a box somewhere and never come outside again. Like, if you go out into the world, you're going to see this. So how do you really, ignore it? How do you ignore, as a man, big, round ass bouncing around that you didn't ask for in a public setting? What if you were just at the bank? You were just at the bank trying to open a checking account or something, and the fucking bank teller or the branch manager or whatever, she got on a strap top, no bra, nipples hard. Like, what am I supposed to do? Ignore that? How? How do you ignore it? You might not dwell on it. It may not become the whole, you just tilt your head down and just blatantly and obviously, it ain't got to be that. But it's how do I just look at that and not have to have a huddle up in my mind? It's all right, boys. Nigga, them titties big, them nipples pierced, and they hard. Okay, let's stay professional here. You at least gotta have that conversation. You don't just look at it like it's a tree or something. Tree, light pole, traffic light. That's not a normal occurrence. How can that be banal? So you want the attention. And it's you only want the attention so you can sexually manipulate somebody. Your whole power, your ace in the hole is sex. Your lifestyle, your culture is based around sex. If there was not sex, you couldn't function in this society. You couldn't survive. Because you have no skills. You have no appeal. Hell, even if we was indigenous, the women have roles. You think they just sit around with their legs up all day and walk around with their ass out? No, they cook and prepare food. They raise kids. They clean shit. They tend to families. They don't just sit around walking around all day just trying to lure the next man into fucking them to finance their lifestyle. No, they take that role for the greater good. They sacrifice a bit of themselves for the good of everyone. It's not just about you, sweetheart. We get it. You have massive ass cheeks. Understood. But let's say every positive quality you had a 3-month appeal time frame. So let's say you had ass and you could cook good. And after 6 months, I'd be tired of both of those things. Hypothetically speaking. Where's your ability to come up with the next thing? How do you stay resourceful? What have you done for me lately? Sex is only one aspect of life. Everything ain't sex related. It shouldn't be anyways. I was just watching Walsh and he was showing some about these teachers fucking around with these kids, male and female, but more female. These middle-aged female women hitting on these teenagers, fucking them, and sending suggestive ass text messages and all that shit. Now, granted, I lost my virginity at 13 to a 20-year-old, and I personally don't have any hang-ups about it. But then I'm posed with the question so if it was my child, would I want that? And the immature part of me is maybe. But the mature part of me is no, I wouldn't. I would much rather my child be dealing with teenagers at their dating age or whatever. Don't be talking to my kid. I guess to some thread, big ups to being able to game adult women, but also not big ups, because if that's how you gaming them, something's off with these women. Something is off. You should not be, you should not be trying to flirt or make a pass on anybody that can't file taxes. Anybody ain't got no W-2, they ain't got no job. 17, 18, 17 in 9 months or something. You shouldn't even be entertaining that shit. That should be automatically off the table, not even up for discussion. No kind of temptation whatsoever. We're just not doing this. This ain't how we rolling. So it is inappropriate. It shouldn't happen. But you got to ask yourself, with all the power that women got in society today, in the sexual dating market, why would these women be trying to fuck teenagers? Like, why are you trying to, why are you going after adolescents? We know why it's gross and inappropriate for a man, so I'm not really focusing on that. I'm not trying to say one's better than the other. But it's like, you got all the power. And this is what you use it on? Why don't you just go out and get an adult? Go get an adult. Like, there are thousands of men who will line up to fuck you. There's always a man who will fuck you. A man, not a boy. Why are you doing this? Now, we can take a guess. We can speculate and say that, well, you're probably having some trouble in the dating market amongst people your age. And why is that? Is it because you get more valuable as you get older? Well, I'd have to disagree. I don't think so. It doesn't make sense to me. If you were more valuable as you got older, it seems like you would have a pool of men to choose from, so you don't have to fuck kids. So does this lend some type of credence to like this whole wall thing? Like, is this wall thing just a gimmick, or is there some truth to it? Or is it the truth? You in your mid-30s, dead-end ass job, you got all kind of baggage. Men don't want to deal with you. So you go after men who don't know they don't want to deal with you yet. Children. And everything's about sex. Like, especially with sex is that's what we talking about here. Like, everything is sexualized. Because it works. But like, to what degree is that whatever success you get by sex working, to what degree is that helpful? It's not completely unobjectionable. Like, come on, nah. Like, it's not even really, like, uncommon anymore. That shit used to be shocking. Now it's just kind of, like, disappointing. And the disappointing fact is, like, this is a norm now. Like, we know what's going to happen. Like, it's a norm. There's no use in having any expectation of, like, real change, because nothing happens to the people that break these rules. Nothing significant anyways. I mean, if it's a man, it'll be significant. If a man does that in most cases, he's fucked. But like, sex should not, it's a power that's being incorrectly wielded. Like, sex should not be being used the way it is. You got these children's shows putting this gender non-binary bullshit, 2 dads and 2 moms and all that shit. Like, I feel like shit like this comes from being afraid to have that talk for whatever reason. We ain't teaching kids about sex and gender. So now that topic, the spot in their brain reserved for handling that topic is now unoccupied. So now any fucking weirdo can come along and insert something in that block, and the longer it's in there, the more it fits to form. And it's harder to undo. We got to start talking to kids and people about this shit, especially the youngsters. Talk to them about healthy sex habits. We got to eliminate hookup culture. Like, the women are so accessible now. There's no reason for that. There's no reason anyways, but there's really no reason for her to be fucking kids. You can go fuck adults all you want. You can be a whore. That's whatever. But like, be a whore with children? When you have all the power? No. So like, what do a healthy conversation look like? When does that start? How do we do it? Well, I think it starts by making sure that there's no inappropriate lead up to it. Like, you got to be in your kid's life. You got to hear the shit they talking about. Like, when I was like 8, 9 years old, I got in trouble for telling this girl to suck my dick. Now, did I really want her to suck my dick? No, I was insulting her. I wasn't requesting that she drop to her knees and blow me. It never got that far to me. So it's like, we got to make sure that type of shit is foreign. And at a certain age, they're going to start to find out about it anyways. And like, you want to hold that shit off. And this is as a non-parent. I would try to hold this shit all to a certain age. And when I see it starting to happen, or some kind of inappropriate shit is showing up, now we gotta sit down and talk about this shit. Like, cause you're basically a man now. You're just the earliest form of man. Like, you can get a woman pregnant. Like, you can do all kind of shit. And you think you having no life experience are bound to think this shit is a game. They need to know at that age, like, what gay is, and not in like an indoctrinatory sense. Like, there are gay people that exist. This shit exists. This is the world. No need to shelter you from it anymore, as you're about to be thrust into it very shortly. This is how men operate. This is the role men should play. This is the role women should play. And not only do you need to tell them, you need to have an example. You need to demonstrate that shit in your own life. You got to live an upstanding life. You know? So when you kicking that shit to your offspring, there's some congruence there. Like, what you say and what you do adds up. The pieces can fit together easily. You don't got to jam them in. It's a cultural problem. You be having like videos like little 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds twerking and shit. Like, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know. And if you don't tell them and they're doing that shit, it's almost guaranteed to manifest into a very bad character flaw or some type of character defect. You need to keep families together. You need the mom and dad in the household. This single mom, independent shit, no, it's a wrap for all of that. There shouldn't really be a situation where, like, two people can come together to make a kid, but only one of them can stick around to raise it. Like, men need to step up and women need to step back. And women can't step back unless men step up. If women step back and men don't step up, there's a gap where the women just step back from. Women need to step back into their feminine slot, and men need to step out of their feminine slot and step into the masculine slot, and it needs to not be a fucking problem. What happened to the whole boys will be boys type shit? And I'm not saying that to like justify sexual abuse or something, but like, what happened to that? Boys will be boys, girls will be girls. You understand the meaning behind that? There are particular behaviors inherent to the sexes. Men gonna do men shit. You walk into a fucking Marshall's. 98% of the store is women's department. And you got like one cubicle over here next to the restrooms and shit. The hardly clean restrooms. And that's where the men's department is. You know? We're different. We don't shop in clothes. Like, we got different priorities hardwired into our being. And the more we deny that, the more we deny our humanity, the more we're unhappy, and the more nothing becomes of that shit. You have all this feuding amongst the sexes. Women don't feel comfortable being feminine. Men don't feel comfortable being masculine. And then you have a generation full of weirdos and pink hair, sissies and bitches walking around talking about how they feel all goddamn day. Because nobody was listening to how they felt when they were growing up. Like, childhood trauma is real. Like, you can subconsciously carry the baggage and trauma from your childhood, and it will manifest in your adult life in not like obvious ways. It's not like you just gonna be like, oh, this happened to me because my mom wasn't there when I was a kid. No, you feel justified in that thought. It never shows up on your radar as problematic. It feels like a natural, legitimate gripe, organic. That's how it manifests. So you gotta be open to that shit. Motherfuckers ain't open-minded. Everybody got so much liberty, and they gonna do what the fuck they want, even if it's damaging. We shouldn't have motherfuckers eating themselves to 700 fucking pounds. We shouldn't have people fleeing from state to state to kill their babies and shit. We shouldn't have motherfuckers trying to assist suicide and all this type of shit. Like, there's got to be some order, man. It's got to be. And wherever this order comes from, like, we got to get some sexual order. Everything ain't about sex all the goddamn time. Everybody out here making all these rash ass decisions because they're thinking with they dick. Like, sex is an emotional thing. The logic behind sex is to reproduce. The emotion behind sex is the experience. And when the experience end of it takes priority, that's how you get people with these weird ass fantasies and all this deviant type shit. And nothing means anything anymore. Words don't mean words. Nothing matters. And you slide into nihilism. So yeah, to conclude, shit, man. Let's lay off the sex. Compartmentalize that shit. Make it valuable again. The market is flooded. It's watered the fuck down. Why would anybody get married and risk having their whole life ruined when you can get laid, bust all the nuts you want for $40 to $100 a pop? And why would women want to get married, you know? Why don't they want to get married? They want to be bought and fucking used and shipped like merchandise? Y'all want to be merchandise? Somebody got to step up and be the bigger person. And play their fucking role. Otherwise, with no role, you're going to have a bunch of actors on stage, and everybody's going to be trying to be Romeo. You're going to have 6, 7 Romeos, 10 Juliets, and it's just not, it's not going to be enjoyable. It's not going to be anything you want to see. It's not going to be pleasurable. And you're going to have a lot of disappointed motherfuckers who thought they was going to see something good and showed up to some bullshit, because everything is everything and nothing is everything is nothing and nothing is everything. All right, rolling up a blunt. Let's get to the philosophy segment. So, woke up this morning and it kind of dawned on me. I seen some Facebook memories of me and my ex-best friend of like 20-something years. And it just got me thinking, like, what the fuck? Like, how could a motherfucker who I've basically grown up with, lived all of my life with, nigga who I called my brother, like, how could we drift off so far? Like, how could we be so far from where we once was? And it just got me thinking, like, what's the philosophy on friends? You know, like, making friends, you know, finding friends. Like, why do people even deal with friends? Like, what's the purpose behind it? So after a quick Google search, I found something called, what was it called? It's a term for it. Let me bring it back up because I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing it right. Nicomachean ethics. I probably mispronounced that, but it's Nicomachean ethics. And it's from Aristotle. And it's basically a work detailing the philosophy of friends. So just based off the little AI Google summation of it, says philosophical discussions of friendship often reference Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, Book 8, which divides friendship into 3 types. Pleasure. Sorry, I got tobacco all in my teeth. Pleasure, loving a friend because of the pleasure they provide. Utility, loving a friend because of their usefulness. And virtue, loving a friend because of their virtuous character. So I think that's rather interesting. And like, I've kind of like wondered about that, and they've divided it into like 3 categories that explain the type of friendships you have. Now, when I look back on the friendship with my ex-best friend, it would certainly be for the pleasure. Like we had like a 20-year encyclopedia of just inside jokes and humor, Family Guy references. Like we had a lot of shit that, you know, and it was fun. Like I could get on the phone with my guy, we chat and talk and shit. I have some of the most wholesome and genuine laughs and enjoyment that I could get. And I don't have that anymore. And part of me does miss it, but, you know, fuck, it is what it is, man. Like, people come and people go. Fuck them. But it just kind of, like, validates what I'm looking at here. As far as the utility, I don't think I've had that many friends. I've never been the type of person to just befriend somebody for what they can do. Like, I don't really have a lot of friends that's just like, that I'm more of the friend for utility. Like, I'm the type of friend that was like looking out, sticking my neck out and shit. Like, I bought a car that I worked all summer for, paid one of my mom's friend in cash. I gave him $1,800 for it. It was a Chrysler Sebring. And I got that car. Once my grandma got me my Envoy, I sold that car to my friend for like a couple $100, like just something cheap. It was pretty ran down at that point and needed work. But I'm like, you know, I got the truck now. Like, I'm looking out for my friend, you know, and I hooked him up. Can't think of too many times. Like, if I need to borrow $10 from that motherfucker, I could never do it. That motherfucker, when I got my inheritance, he asked me to loan him some money because he was behind on his bills. Yeah, I did it, you know, because of the pleasure he provided as my friend. And it was my desire to not see that nigga be in a tougher spot if it was something I could do about it. So, like, I've never really often received the utility part. That's more from family. I got utility from family. My grandma, my sister, sometimes my mom, sometimes my father. You know, so that's where I'm more on the giving end when it comes to friendship. I get the utility from the family. And virtue. Loving a friend because of their virtuous character. Now, like, I could think back on some people. Like, I don't really have a lot of friends now, but, like, I could think back on some people who I just fucked with. This one friend in particular, she had some health issues or whatever. She needed, like, a transplant, and she finally got it. And just her outlook, her view on the world, like, her philanthropist kind of paradigm that she have. I know she's a good person at heart. I know, like, her natural efforts just is what make her awesome. You know, and if I sat down and really pondered on it, I'm sure I could think of more people who, you know, I've befriended for that reason, but that's that. So you can scroll on a little further here. It says types of friendship. Aristotle believed that friendships based on pleasure or advantage alone are less likely to be true friendships than those based on virtue. He defined friendship as a reciprocal goodwill that is recognized by both parties and that it is not enough to wish someone well if they do not wish you well in return. Aristotle also believed that true friendship is based on mutual respect, admiration, and gratitude, and that it must grow over time. And I think that's 100% spot on. And I think also that's why a lot of my friendships petered out. Like, they just kind of diminished. Because it became obvious to me that this is like a one-sided affair. Like, what do I get out of this? Like, just an occasional phone call? But when I get into a jam and I need somebody, like, I can't call you for that. But if I need a laugh, I can call you for that. But you can't, like, actually assist me in ways that a friend could. Like, that shit doesn't work for me. And it's bullshit. And you can't even get angry about it because, like, I decided to do those things. Like, nobody put a gun to my head and forced me to be a good friend. You know, all those decisions I made were based on me just trying to look out, be a good friend, and help my peoples out. Like, look out and shit, you know? And it backfired. Does that mean friends are a bad idea? No. Just mean, like, I got to be more selective about who I'm going to befriend, who I'm going to be calling my friend, and all that kind of shit, you know? Got to be more discerning. And the part where it says that it must grow over time, I think at a certain point it was growing over time, but I went through some shit in my life. I did some highly questionable shit that could make a motherfucker reasonably, like, question the utility of a friendship with me. Now, I don't see how it actually affected the utility, but, I think for the people who know me, it should have been obvious that I was going through something. Like, my grandmother died. She was my rock. She was my guardian angel. I had a bunch of money. I had like a inheritance. It was like almost 40 racks. I had $15,000 cash. Nobody reached out. Nobody helped me. There was so much for all that utility and virtue and pleasure. Like, nobody's here to help me now when I need help the most. But when other motherfuckers need help, they don't hesitate to call me. And I just felt like that was bullshit. So that was a relationship that just had to go. Like, it's nothing personal. It's just like, fuck, if we looking at the bottom line and the numbers are red, we got to make some cutbacks or we're going to be finished in a relatively short amount of time. So, it says here, other philosophers have also written about friendship, including Rami Sadek, believes that friends are life companions and an extended family that develops from life's everyday situations and pleasures. Agree. Michel de Montaigne stresses the importance of friendship and believes that it is nourished and improved by enjoyment. Plutarch believes that a friend should not change when you change, as your shadow does a better job of that. My God, like that one right there, that one hits. Like, your friends should not change when you change. Like, I felt like my friends should have at least made an effort to understand or at least ask some questions about what the fuck was going on. Like, I was open with one of my friends about the shit, and it ended up not being a wise thing to do because the shit got thrown in my face. I got ridiculed and seen as less than as a result. And it was hard. Like, it was difficult to, like, move beyond that shit in the beginning because I'm thinking, like, bro, like, nigga, you my brother. Like, we brothers. Like, I don't have no brothers, like, actually no biological brothers, but it's like, nigga, you jealous of me. Like, nigga, you envy me, but that shit don't necessarily manifest as, like, outright envy. That shit just, it manifests in little sneaky, underhanded ways, comments, behaviors and shit, non-reciprocal, it shows up somehow. And I'm perspicacious enough to notice it. We got a couple more. It say Pythagoras believes that friends are companions on a journey that should help each other achieve a happier life. Seneca believes that friendship always benefits while love can sometimes be harmful. Zeno believes that friend is another self. And I would agree with all of those. All of those are like good summations of like friends, why you should have friends, the purpose they're supposed to serve. And it gives you a guideline to like look at, so when you can determine when and if friendships change, like whether it's a good change or like whether it's not a good change. I understand and accept that people change, people's life situations change, and they're not always the same person that they started off being. And that's totally fine. But the communication and all that's supposed to be open enough. Like, just because my life changed don't mean I can't still be your friend. Don't mean I still can't contribute to your well-being, whether in a minor or major way. And I'm probably going to have to look deeper into this because this is actually interesting. And it kind of pisses me off when, like, I have people that's, like, supposed to be my friends and shit. It seems like people want to be, like, friends with me over the phone. Like, motherfuckers act like they so busy and got all this shit going on. And it's like, how hard is it to, like, schedule something? Like, I get it. Like, if I call you just randomly in the day and you already had shit planned, like, okay, fine. But we can plan something for the future where we both can have a block of time that overlaps, where we both ain't got shit to do. Let's do that shit. Motherfuckers act like they so busy or they got so much shit to do. And like, I get it, but over time, that's just avoidance. Like, you ain't always that goddamn busy. Your life is not, you ain't no celebrity. You ain't booked that side to where, nigga, we can't spend a couple hours together or we can't just chill. Like, we can't just sit here and like do nothing in each other's presence. Like, motherfuckers don't, actions speak louder than words. Like, that shit reigns king. That ain't never been more true. So, like, when motherfuckers always got excuses, like, a motherfucker's just not trying to be around you. A motherfucker doesn't value that friendship because you can only do that shit for so long before I'm gone. Because somebody can only do that shit for you to so long before you be gone. So I'm pretty sure people understand that. To say you don't understand that is bullshit. So, like, our friendships today, like that, like, I feel like a lot of friendships today kind of, more friendships are built on utility and the pleasure that results from that utility as opposed to virtue. Like, friendships built on pleasure and utility, I feel like they're more acquaintanceships. Those ain't really friends. Because if you only gonna be my friend if I provide some type of pleasure, or if I'm doing something for you, I'm not gonna always be pleasurable in you and doing something for you. So like, what am I supposed to do for them times? Like, if I'm not doing something for you, I guess I just don't hear from you, huh? Doesn't that sound like you're being used? Like, if you just don't fuck with me because I'm an upstanding person, I do right by my family, I do right by the children if I have any, like I treat people with respect and all that shit. I don't play useless get back games, or I don't try to ruin people's life or walk around like, karma, karma's gonna get you. Just walk around being spiteful with a chip on my shoulder. Like, why don't I get some respect for that? Why can't, like, I have some friends that we can healthily disagree? Because even though we see the world differently, like, I still, I know you as a person. I know we just doing what we believe in. We not against each other, but we not on the same pathway. But our destination is the same. I don't vibe. That's after reading this is probably why I don't have a lot of friends now. I don't even have a lot of acquaintances, because my standards for friendship are higher and they kind of align with the text that I just read. Like, I don't need no friends I could just use. Like, it wouldn't be bad. Like, if I got into, hey man, can I crash here for a night, bro? I'm just far away from the crib, blah, blah, blah. Like, minor shit. Like, I don't need to come live with you. I don't need you to pay a bill. Hey bro, you spot me $10, $15 to tomorrow. I'm just trying to whoop. I just got into a jam, Or, bro, I got the money. You buy me out of jail real quick. I pay you back as soon as I get out. Whoop. Shit like that. Because you can't access your money to bond yourself out from within jail. Like, shit like that. Like, I don't need a motherfucker to subsidize my life. I just want motherfucker, got some point of views, good take, pleasurable conversation, and a motherfucker that got some morals and standards in their life. Like, these motherfuckers nowadays ain't got no morals, ain't got no standards. Like, motherfuckers just gallivanting, floating through life. Like, motherfuckers just focused on their daily, current, in the moment, the desires. Like, whatever the easiest path to instant gratification is. And how can you help them get to that? If you don't make the path to instant gratification easier, then you're worthless. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's healthy. But, like, what the fuck? Like, a lot of these niggas, I hear a lot of niggas today talking about dumb shit, like hitting parlays or just fucking, like, the next scam, or, like, how they not finna work and blah, blah, blah. They gonna do all this, but niggas don't have no plan. Niggas got all kind of desires and dreams, but niggas got destinations but no GPS. Niggas just gonna wander aimlessly throughout the landscape and hope that they somehow show up at their destination. Motherfuckers gonna travel to a foreign land. Don't ask nobody for directions. Just ask everybody for rides. Don't have nothing to offer for a ride. Just want to go somewhere where they unfamiliar with and reach their destination with no knowledge of the land at all. They just want. Men and women, they just want. And if you can help them get what they want, yeah, that's my nigga. That's my bro. And as soon as something come up in my life or I just realize this shit and know, man, you a bitch ass nigga, dog, bro. What happened? We supposed to be boys. Like, we is boys. What the fuck do boys mean to you? I'm just supposed to help you reach all your goals and get nothing in exchange for it? And what happens in this life where you do for someone else and get nothing in return? Unless you a homeless person or some shit like that, like panhandling or in some kind of shelter or some shit like that, it's very little. And even still, they gonna have rules for you to abide by. You're going to have to fall in the sun. There is no free exchange in this world. Anything that's free has already been paid for by somebody. You know, even if you wanted to grow your own food, like unless you're going to grow the trees, harvest the wood, build shit. And even still, you're going to need tools to build shit. You're not going to build all the tools. Like, who just going to give them to you? Could happen, but likely it's not worth depending on. Nothing in this world happens for free. Nothing. So, like, somebody's got to do something to, you know, and if that's the only thing you view other people for, is just to help you achieve shit, then you don't understand friendship. You don't have any real friends. You just have tools. You just see people as tools, and, like, you should not be befriended. And motherfuckers are really good at masking a temporary, like, seeming like they friends from the get-go, but then turns out the friendship was as dependable as your dependability was to them. You would never do that shit to them, but they do it to you. And it's a fucked up feeling, bro. It don't feel good. It's heinous. And you gotta know how to avoid them motherfuckers. I'm the type of person, if I had to pick from pleasure, utility, and virtue would be the first thing that I base my friendship on. And that's exemplified by the fact that I don't have very many friends. I can't befriend no nigga that don't have no ambition, no drive. Nigga not a family man. Nigga don't have some type of insight or ability to mentor me. Like, there's nothing to gain from this nigga in terms of, like, bettering myself. Like, yeah, I might want something from you, nigga, but that's just to improve me. Not to achieve a goal, but to be a better person, to learn something. And to, like, have a community of like-minded, strong-willed, morality-driven individuals. Not just so when I need something, you turn into work I don't have to do so I can still achieve my goal. Fake ass motherfuckers. I don't vibe with that energy. That shit, And I'm going to read more into this. I'm going to start researching this because this is really fucking interesting. Like, this is something I understood but didn't have a way to, like, translate into, like, you know, like if I had to explain it. Like if somebody was asking me, like I didn't have it all broken down and studied and categorized, but like I knew this, you know? And it's why, like, I'm cool walking this lone wolf path right now. Because I need to be befriending people who are already headed to the same place I'm going. And they was going that way before they met me. This was already how they were wired to be. Them the people I want to be around. Not some old bandwagon hitchhiking ass motherfucker that's going to say one thing and do another. Nigga, if you met me this year and you heard what I was saying and you see me now, it would all line up. You'd be like, damn, this nigga was for real. He wasn't just capping. And them the type of people I want to be around, and they're hard to find. So I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to wait as long as it takes to have a quality friend circle and to be completely isolated in the meantime, or just limit how far I'm going to take my interactions with people until I find those people. I'm just silently vetting. Because I don't see any other way to be. Like, this is already understood. This ain't even new knowledge. You know, this is already understood. So, the next time you meet somebody and you're having a good conversation or whatever, things is flowing real good, and, you know, you're having like a series of good interactions with them, just start asking yourself, like, okay, what does this motherfucker want from me? Pleasure, utility, or virtue? And, you know, whichever one of those works for you, if you start to align your friends with people who fall into the category which you prioritize most, I guarantee you'll see an increase in the quality of people you around and the quality of friends you around. And you'll see a decrease in being around fuck niggas and gold digging bitches and all that kind of shit. Because you know what to look for. You have filtered your search. So shouldn't take long for you to see the results you want. That is today's show. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the new format. It felt better for me. I liked it a lot more. So hopefully that can result in better, more quality, more insightful episodes, and, you know, less just complaining and insult throwing and all that type of shit. So, you know, until next time, I'll holla.